everybody. Episode 49 of All About the Birds. Johnny Ulecka, Phil Stifle, Jeff Warner. Just make sure you hit those like, share, retweets, smash those buttons. We're here to break down Week 7 of the NFL season. The Eagles play the Giants tomorrow night. We're here to break it all down, talk about what Doug Peterson had to say. We got a lot to dive into, a lot to get into.
And who would have thought? I would say at Week 7 we'd be talking about a team that is 1-5 with the New York Giants and the Eagles at 1-4-1. So I would say I'm pretty sure Fox didn't expect when they decided to make this a primetime football game that both teams would be abysmal, but still in contention for the playoffs in the NFC East race.
But Jeff, if the Eagles do win, they are going to be holding first place until Sunday, unless Dallas loses.
Yeah.
It's still first place, but the big news is the injury news. We always talk about injuries, and you're not going to have Miles Sanders. You're not going to have Alshon Jeffrey. You will
again. I'm sharing things right now. I'm trying to get it out there. But I heard injuries. Alshon Jeffries obviously is still not there.
Dude's stealing money, dude. I was saying, Howie, once again, I know we rip him week after week for his abysmal and horrible decision-making when it comes to contracts. That dude hasn't played a freaking down in how long, and he's still getting paid. So I would say he needs to get back there soon. Thankfully, it looks like Deshaun Jackson and Lane Johnson are both expected to play this week. So I would say Carson Wentz does get one of his weapons back. We'll see how Doug Peterson gets him acclimated to the offense and to the game plan for Thursday's game against the Giants.
And the other thing is the one game experience of Jamon Brown is no longer, so he's cut. But also Matt Pryor was activated off of the COVID list, so he will be starting at right guard for the Eagles tomorrow night. Which he hadn't played great, but he didn't play as bad as Jamon Brown played in that game on Sunday. So that's good to have him back.
On the post-game show. I mean, what was worse, the Jamon Brown game this week, or was the Winston Justice game in 2007 against the Giants?
It's got to be Justice.
Worse.
That Winston, I would say Jamon Brown's performance is up there. The fact that he sacked his quarterback as an offensive lineman.
I got cut the week after getting a sack in the NFL. I don't know if that's ever happened.
Yeah, but I'll say the Winston Justice game, especially since that team had high hopes. There was a lot of contention. And I would say you didn't expect Trey Thomas, but I would say you didn't expect Minor to go off for 6 sacks or whatever it was that game. So I thought to give Winston Justice performance is the more worse than Jamon Brown's.
And Miguel here brings up a great point, asking about if the Eagles should pick up the guard that was released, Quentin Spain, who since 2017, he was back. He was the backup for the Bills. Since 2017, he played over 2,000 snaps and gave up 1 sack. So maybe it's something.
Why was he cut from Buffalo then if he was that good?
If he's that decent, if Buffalo's a good football team.
Buffalo has Cody Ford, who was a draft pick last year, left guard. Their right guard is Brian Winters, who they signed, who was off the Jets. And Quentin Spain's a 29-year-old. And they also have Ryan Bates, who played with the Eagles. He's their backup as well. Cutting Quentin Spain clears up cap space for them to probably make a trade. So it's kind of a numbers game. And,
I mean, in this world with the COVID world that we're living in, and you just never know who's going to be, on that COVID IR list, I get suspicious when somebody's cut. If they're so good, Jamon Brown has been cut how many times? You worry about that when a guy is cut so frequently. If he's so good, why is he cut? So it worries me, but he is out there and he can't be worse than what we've been running out there. So, I mean, obviously Howie should be on the phone, at least making an inquiry into him.
Well, unfortunately, we keep on bringing up the Eagles cap situation with Howie. I would say he keeps on saying that they're trying to roll up as much over as possible. The fact that they did restructure Fletcher Cox today and made some of his salary into a bonus, which clears up some cap space, which is beneficial. I do not see the Eagles signing, unless it's a catastrophic injury, like a season-ending injury, and they need another body out there. I do not see them signing anyone off the street at this moment.
I mean, honestly, outside of Jamon Brown, these young guys, they've had moments where it's been bad. Like Jack Driscoll's probably the weakest link of the young kids. But for the most part, Pryor's been okay. Mailata has impressed to an extent. Guys are not doing awful. when they're put out there. Yes, I know, Carson Wentz leads the league in sacks. He's been sacked 25 times, but a lot of that is the wide receivers not getting separation, no running game for play action pass, the play calling of 7-step drops when you have a young offensive line. I think that goes into it just as much on why he's getting sacked so much and him not throwing the ball away as much as he should.
Hangs on
into the offensive line struggles and all.
The biggest question for you guys, I want to hear your input on this. When Jason Peters comes back, where does he fit in? Because I don't think
right guard.
have exactly
Right guard.
The way Mailata's been playing. If you watched, because I know someone's breaking down like the film of him against Calais Campbell, pancaking him twice, which is massive blocks. He's showing you he has the tools. He's so young, yet he's learning and picking up, and he's getting better every single game. And the stretch of games that he had, playing against Bud Dupree, playing against Calais Campbell, Matthew Judon, against these great pass rushers in this league,
top guys.
He's holding his own. And when Jason Peters comes back, to go and put somebody like that back at left tackle, you're not doing the team any favors, because you need to get younger. You need these guys to get experience.
Well, that you need continuity along your offensive line. I would say the fact that Mailata is feeling comfortable, he's holding his own, he's playing well, he's improving each week. I would say I know Calais Campbell had a big game this past week, but a lot of that wasn't on Mailata. A lot of that was on the protection, and I would say the Ravens bringing extra pressure, and Doug Peterson and the offensive game plan, not putting in extra blockers in there to help Mailata, and a lot of the interior line breaking down. But I'll say right now, your weakest link is right guard, and until if for some reason Brandon Brooks is miraculously comes back from his injury, which apparently he's ahead of schedule. So I would say, unfortunately, we paid Peters to play left tackle, but right now he's going to keep that money, and I would say when he comes back, they're going to move him back to right guard until he shows he can't hold his own anymore at 38 years old.
Yeah, he's got to go there. You brought up multiple points there that I wanted to touch on. One, Mailata, Carson Wentz got sacked on the left side of the line multiple times. But if you watch back those plays, a lot of those sacks when he was rolling to the left there were coming from the right side. They were beating Jamone Brown and Jack Driscoll, and they were getting all the way around and catching Carson from behind. It wasn't like Mailata was giving up those, blitzes and everything. And also, it's something with the play calling, and I brought it up on multiple shows that I've been on. Doug Peterson is not giving any help to the offensive line. He's not leaving a tight end in there to help block. His running backs aren't doing any chip blocks. You saw, last week, with the Ravens, they had, a 6 offensive lineman out there a few times. You saw it on the Monday Night Football game. You saw it in the Cowboys, Cardinals game and the Sunday night game. You saw 6, 7 offensive linemen. That's what you do when you have offensive line help. You put extra guys out there to help. And Doug Peterson isn't doing that. And that is definitely right along with his play calling issues. It's his management of that there that's really of concern at this point.
And the other thing to think about, with a team like the Giants coming in and who've struggled offensively, but defensively they've been playing well. They've held their own. So, and with not having Zach Ertz is out 3 to 4 weeks, you're most likely not going to have Goddard. With cutting Jamone Brown, they brought up Jason Kroom, who had that touchdown catch in the corner of the end zone. You have Richard Rodgers, Hakeem Butler, but do you go and like what Phil was saying with the extra offensive linemen? If you're going to use, because the run game is going to be a big factor, but who are you going to have out there? Boston Scott does not look good. Corey Clement looks slower, and he just doesn't look like the old. I don't know if the injury is just taking a toll. He just doesn't look as good as he did a couple of years ago. And Jason Huntley really hasn't seen the field, but maybe a handful of times. Are you going to lean? And I know Doug mentioned it about getting Jalen Hurts more acclimated, into the game, get into a type of a rhythm. Do they use him more, as running the ball, a more, different type of, showing the defense different type of things? I think they do, but do you risk getting him hurt if you're going to throw him out there for 10, 15 times?
Oh, he's a backup quarterback. I would say if he gets hurt, it's not going to matter too much. I would say you're more worried about your starting with Carson Wentz. And I would say they have a little bit of faith in Sudfeld to run this offense. So I would say if Jalen Hurts gets hurt and for God forbid Carson gets hurt, I don't think it's going to matter much. But you've seen the last couple of weeks, I would say, except in that second half when Miles Sanders got hurt, which me and Phil addressed in the postgame show, we don't know if they just didn't feel that Hurts was going to be that decoy with Sanders not being in there. And I'll say our defense is going to respect Boston Scott and Corey Clement with the RPO and all that. But I'll say I expect to see a lot more Jalen Hurts this week. And I'll say because when you saw him in there, you saw a burst from this offense. You saw a lot of misdirection. You saw a lot of success with him out on that field, disguising and catching the defenses off guard. So he brings you that dual threat. So I'll say it brings a little bit of spark to the offense. And I feel Doug's going to try to find a way, especially the last couple of weeks. This offense in the first half has not gotten any type of rhythm. So I feel with Jalen Hurts out there, it's going to boost some things up and we're going to surprise some things. I'm not saying they're going to take Carson out of the game like most of the game or anything like that. I'll say Carson's still your starting quarterback, but I'll say they need more playmakers out there, and Jalen Hurts with his ability definitely provides that.
And they need to do it more, as you said, in the first half. You know, we talked about it. They wait too late in the game to get that rhythm going. And that's the key there. Sorry, Johnny, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no,
I've written that down so I didn't forget. That's the key there is getting it started right away.
And it's a good point because they haven't gotten started since Washington. Mm-hmm. Since the first week of the season, they haven't gotten started. And the thing is, looking at the Giants' defense, they rank 8th in the league in rushing. They're good against the run. And they're getting one of their inside linebackers, David Mayo, may return, was one of the best against the run last year. So it's gonna help them against the run. But the thing is, what I want to see is I want to see Travis Fulgham against the Giants. He did pretty well against Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters, a good secondary in Baltimore coming on in the second half. And he did well against the secondary of the Steelers. So I know Deshaun's going to be back, but whether or not how many plays he play, I don't know if he's going to be on a limited snap count. I have no idea what they're going to be doing with that. And Doug was at
the play calling. I'll say because the 3 games that Deshaun was in there, I'll say he was trying to design game plays directly for Deshaun, the deep passes, the deep routes, and they weren't a success. I'll say Peterson. I'll say he's been a horrible play caller over the last couple of weeks without Deshaun. It just kind of worries me what his game plan is going to this Giants game with Deshaun coming back and trying to get that big play threat and getting him adjusted with and connecting with Carson Wentz. It's going to be interesting to see, and I'm kind of worried because I would say it's going to ruin the complete rhythm if they're more worried about getting Deshaun the ball instead of Carson just going through his progressions.
They got to let it flow naturally.
Yes,
Deshaun and with everybody else. It's got to flow naturally. You can't force it to anybody. With no Miles Sanders, with no Zach Ertz, with no Dallas Goedert, I would actually put Deshaun below them in importance and all in this offense. Without your top 2 or 3 weapons, you can't force it to, and you can't force it to Travis Fulgham. You just got to let the offense come to you. You got to if you have a 3 and out early on, it's okay. As long as you stick to the plan of just going with what works, let it go, let it free flow. You don't have to force Deshaun the ball. You don't have to force Hurts the ball. You don't have to give Boston Scott, 5 straight screen passes that aren't going to work. You just got to see what the game is and let the game flow naturally.
You got to let Carson hit Phil's favorite player, Greg Ward.
Hey, Greg Ward's had big games against the Giants last year.
I was at the Monday Night Football game last year when they came back. So,
but it just like what Miguel's saying here with John Ross. That's just you don't need a underachieving small speedster. That's not really, why give up draft compensation when you need to get younger? I understand, but he's also a free agent too. So I just don't feel like he fits.
I wouldn't be against getting John Ross depending on the compensation. I would say he's a speedy receiver that can stretch the field. I'll say you have to remember he's been in freaking Cincinnati. He's been with Andy Dalton, now a rookie quarterback with Joe Burrow.
Andy Dalton's good. Dallas fans think he's great.
Well, I'll say, granted, Dalton has been to the playoffs multiple times, so I'll say you can't discredit him for that. But
Yeah.
I'll say towards the end of his tenure with Cincinnati, he was horrible. And I'll say the reason John Ross is demanding a trade because he just doesn't fit their scheme, what they're trying to do. I would say John Ross is basically a burner. I would say he really doesn't fit what they're doing with the rest of their offense. I would say they're doing a lot of 2-3 step drops. They have a horrible offensive line. They don't want Burrow getting killed, so they're not developing those big play routes, and they feel the other receivers fit their system a little bit more, which is why John Ross is pissed off and wants to get out of there. If the compensation's there, I don't see why not. He's a young guy. He can probably get him on cheap extension. I would say he fills that void when we move on from Deshaun. He brings that big play threat that at a younger receiver. And I would say last year, even though the Bengals sucked and he had a down year, he still had 500 and something yards and a couple touchdowns. So he's still having better production than our receivers right now, and even last year. So I'm gonna be against it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm against it because it's just not what we need, in my opinion. But as Chip's bringing up, moving Carson out of the pocket. They have tried to move him out of the pocket. It's the 7-step drops. Where are the 3-step drops? Where's the old school West Coast offense? 3-step drop. Fire it, read your hot receiver, and that's where I just don't see them doing enough of this year when they need to.
And touching back on the John Ross real quick, you get him, but the thing is, where does he fit in when Rager comes back? You have John Hightower, Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, Travis Fulgham, Greg Ward. Where does he fit in? Whose playing time gets decreased? To me, I just don't think it makes much sense. I feel like if you're going to go out and make a move or do something, which we're going to touch on in future shows when it gets closer with the trade deadline, but I feel like a linebacker or maybe a backup offensive lineman, or maybe you go into the secondary or something like that.
Well, the question is, who's available at those positions? I'll say it's not like there's a lot of names being thrown out there on the trade block to fill those holes. I know there's a bunch of hypothetical trades that people are throwing out there, but we don't know if those guys are even available. We know John Ross is available. We know Will Fuller's available, apparently, from the Houston Texans. They're dumpster fire right now and cleaning house, apparently, because they're in complete shambles right now. So we keep on talking about that. We don't have playmakers. We don't have weapons for Carson Wentz. Granted, Fulgham's coming into his own. I'll say we're still waiting for Deshaun and Alshon to get healthy. Rager, yeah, he's a first-round pick. He's going to be getting playing time. But there's a reason why John Hightower and Greg Ward and these guys are backups. Granted, Greg Ward's considered a starter as a slot receiver. But I'll say
Ward.
With also both tight ends being hurt, you're not going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets. You need more playmakers. You need more weapons on the outside and at the wide receiver position if you're going to be throwing the football, especially with no running game, depending on how long Miles Sanders is out.
Exactly, but three names.
And I'm not saying give up like a 3rd or a 2nd round pick for Ross. If it's like a 6th or a conditional 5th, okay, I would be somewhat okay with that, especially since they might address wide receiver in the draft anyway. There's one pick. At least we have a veteran that's a somewhat decent, shown to be a decent veteran in this league.
3 names that I've looked up and I've seen. One for the Jets, linebacker Avery Williamson. The other 2 are in Atlanta because Atlanta's, I don't know what they're doing, whether they're going to sell off everybody, but a safety Ricardo Allen or safety Keanu Neal. So those are a couple of names. I'm not saying that they're available. I'm not saying it's something but those are some guys that I would look at before I would look at receiver. But like I said, we'll get into that on future shows. My biggest thing is, talking about the Giants a little bit and looking at them, all the injuries that they have. They're a team that is beat up as well. Same with the Eagles. They don't have their best offensive weapon in Saquon Barkley, and Daniel Jones is struggling. They got a couple injuries on the defensive side of the ball. They hardly have any receivers. I know Sterling Shepard may come back, but they're a hurt team.
Slayton's questionable. He's been Daniel Jones' primary target over the last couple weeks. So if he's out for this game, that's going to be a huge bonus for that Eagles defense. Evan Ingram's a name that you're going to have to watch. I'll say the Eagles constantly keep on getting burned.
Nate Gary. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll say Ingram's definitely one of those pass catching tight ends with some speed that could be exposing our linebackers this week.
I just want to see more of. I know Duke Riley he's going to play, but I don't think that Alex Singleton's reps should decrease because Duke Riley's back. I think Alex Singleton showed you a little bit. He flashed a little bit. I think he deserves to be able to get some playing time. I know he was 89% of the snaps last week, but I think he needs to play around that 80% range this week. I think they need to decrease, like I've said, they need to decrease Gary's playing time and give the other guys some reps.
I mean, honestly, it's the whole, kind of going back to the trade, topics, and also what you're saying here. I've been pumping this idea and this theory for weeks now. We can be sellers at the trade deadline and still try to win this division because we've got these young guys that we need to get opportunities for. Okay, you can get Davian Taylor out there. You can get Fulgham more reps and Hightower more reps if we're not playing Deshaun and Alshon Jeffries. The young guys on the offensive line. If Peters comes back healthy, let him play left tackle for one game. If it gets him some trade value, we need to.
No one's trading for a 38-year-old offensive line
at the deadline to acquire assets so that we can keep playing these young guys. And honestly, like we've talked about, what's it going to take? 6-7 wins to win this division? We can win 6-7 games with the way the young kids are slowly developing.
Hell, ESPN today had a little mock simulation. Apparently, I'll say it's 6-9-1, having the Eagles win the NFC East.
Exactly, 54% right now. Exactly. So you know what? We could be sellers and still make the playoffs. And for anybody out there, I think one of you have said it. You don't want to make the playoffs. I don't care. I want the playoffs.
That was Jeff.
Don't matter.
No, I didn't say I didn't want to make the playoffs. I said I wouldn't be upset if we don't make the playoffs because I would say with our record I would say for us to make the playoffs, the highly likely we're a first round exit, and then our draft stock completely plummets. I would say we're down like drafting at like 22 or something like that. Now that there's 14 teams in the draft or in the playoffs.
Who cares about the draft spot? If Howie can't pick first round talent, who cares?
It's a little bit better picking top 10, picking the top 10 and hitting one of those than a late round first round pick, or trading out of that pick to get more compensation and then not hitting on any of those other picks.
Everything you got, all the few minor assets, get more third, fourth, fifth round picks, whatever it may be. You do that, you make the playoffs, and there's a key thing with making the playoffs. If we're rolling with these young guys, even if you leave. What's that? Peter says 0. Yes, I know that. I'm trying to be positive here, Chip. Positivity here. There's a key to making the playoffs. Carson Wentz gets playoff experience. Travis Fulgham gets playoff experience. Alex Singleton makes playoff experience. All these young kids, Davian Taylor if he's there, Kayvon Wallace if he's playing regularly, they get the playoff experience. There's something to be said for playoff experience. And even if they lose, I'd rather make the playoffs, get the 22nd pick in the draft, then get the 15th pick in the draft and not make the playoffs, because that's giving us very important experience for next year when our team's healthy and more experienced to maybe make a more deeper run.
I'll say, Miguel, I know you bring up, I would say, Miguel here saying I'd rather trade this year's draft picks than use them this year is going to be a tough draft. I understand with COVID, and I'll say with the limited college football, it's going to be interesting to see where some of these guys are and how they're evaluated. But next year's draft is a make or break for this franchise. I'll say with their cap situation, I would say they're going to be doing a lot of moving around. There's going to be a lot of overhaul, and I don't know if there's going to have a lot of space to really make a run at a bunch of free agents next year, at least quality free agents. So I feel next year's draft they really have to hit on. They need a lot of draft picks to fill those holes and bring in some young quality talent. They need playmakers. So I say it's going to be.
That brings up this earlier question: are we going to have a shakeup with the coaching staff or GM? We didn't put it up there and really discuss it, and I don't want to get too detailed about it. But who is going to be making the draft choices is another whole question. I mean, I agree with you guys. I think Howie's going to be around for another year.
He's being around.
There's enough issues that there could be, a shakeup there in that GM department or that front office department.
I feel Schwartz is going to be the scapegoat. I think that's really going to be your coaching staff. I would say that's going to be your coaching staff hiccup, especially since he's apparently reports came out, I would say last week, about him wanting certain guys in the draft and Howie picking other guys that he didn't want. And I guess Doug didn't step in, or like we said, we all know who's in charge when it comes to this front office, whether it's Doug having the input, Howie having the input, we don't really know, but it seems like Howie's having the whole control.
We didn't get clips this week and everything of any of the interviews, but he was asked about that this week, which he did his Wednesday press conference yesterday. And he was asked about, personnel control. And he just looked at the screen and smiled and said, yeah, no, I'm not answering that. And then he tried to follow up. He's like, Yeah, no, not answering that. Big grin on his face, and no, you're not. And he pointed, and he's like, "Yeah, you're not getting me." I think they were his exact words. You're not getting me.
Well,
And
it's good for the reporters to ask that because I would say a couple.
you got to ask those tough questions.
Well, yeah, I was saying when a couple weeks ago when he was asked about like personnel, and he said, "Well, that's Howie and Doug's." Asked Howie and Doug. So the fact that they bring it up this week and now he doesn't want to answer it, that's his own freaking fault. I was saying, and it's one of those things with Jim Schwartz. He doesn't accept responsibility or blame. The last couple of weeks, I would say the defensive game plan has been an absolute disaster. But he doesn't want to accept responsibility for it. He absolutely wants to throw everyone else under the bus. He wants to throw Doug's timeout call and this and that and personnel instead of his game plan. He's not coming out and saying, "Look, I need to do a better job." If he would say that, I feel I would not like forgive him, but like, okay, we have bad days, but I feel he's getting frustrated with the situation. He's getting frustrated with the power struggle between the front office and the coaching staff. And I feel he's getting upset with Doug. The fact that he's being the middleman and trying to play both sides, he's probably saying, "Hey, Jim, we're fine," or whatever. Do what you keep on doing. And he's telling Howie another thing. So I feel Schwartz is done after this year. He's having a bad year. Granted, a lot of it's the personnel. Obviously, he can't have his successful when he has successful defenses. He's had quality players with his defense. But the thing is, as the defensive coordinator, he needs to realize what he has at those positions. And once again, it's the old cliche, putting your players in position to succeed. And he's definitely not doing that as a defensive coordinator.
And he is rightfully so the scapegoat, 100%. Because again, as he's saying here, he's not developing any of these players. You know. No. Who has progressed? The last player he even slightly developed, and it was only for 1 year, was Darius Slay when he was in Detroit. Before that, you have to go back even further. But I brought the stats up before. I don't even know why we expect him to be good as a defense coordinator. Because in 19 years, I said it before, and I'll say it again, he's had just as many bottom five defenses as top five defenses in 19 years. He's actually had more bottom 10 than top 10 defenses in his career. So there's no reason for people to give Schwartz a pass or to think he's going to be this great defense coordinator because he's had 3 good years as a defensive coordinator his whole entire career.
And the thing is, you're going to see this week against a bad Giants offense. It's going to be, if the defense plays well. It's to me this week in terms of the defense is going to remind us possibly of the Jets game of last year. Where it was just
couple weeks. I'll say against Andy Dalton. I'll say he should have success against Andy Dalton. Granted, he has to face Zeke in the backfield.
It's that offensive line. That offensive line is absolutely in shambles, like the Eagles. And the Eagles' defensive line is what the strength is. So they can feed off of that. Same with the Giants. Their offensive line is young and it's very it's the experience is or lack thereof. So Eagles can help against Daniel Jones, a young quarterback.
And I'll say Miguel's bringing up a good point. I would say his ability to evaluate his talent, I would say, is very misleading. I would say all these years we kept on thinking about Rasul Douglas and who's the other corner that we like? Sidney Jones were bums, and I would say they couldn't play. And I would say we kept on holding out hope that they were going to succeed, and they just couldn't apparently. And Schwartz never fell in love with those guys. But look at them now in other places. I would say Sidney Jones and Rasul Douglas are both performing for their other teams and contributing and playing okay. I would say they're playing better than
Jones last week. Gave up 6 catches, I think, for like 100 and some yards. I forget who he went up against. But he did get smoked last week. Just so you know, he got smoked last week.
I know Rasul, I would say he had a big game for the
and Sidney has played well for most of the year, but he did get smoked last week. But again, on the Schwartz and the love of his players, I mean, he was asked about Vinny Curry instead of Casey Tuhel in his interview yesterday, in his press conference. And he's like, Vinny Curry played really well. It was really the right decision is basically what he said. Did anybody think Vinny Curry was worth cutting a 24-year-old defensive end for? I mean, he was on the field for like 14 snaps. He had 1 tackle. Yeah. I mean, was that really worth keeping a 32-year-old that could barely stay healthy for a 24-year-old that had some promise? So and somebody that didn't even clear waiver, he was picked up immediately, Casey Tuhel, because there's so much potential there. Well, so that's Schwartz keeping, his guys he likes, the guys that are in his club, too long.
It's the personnel decisions. And the other personnel decision, which, is baffling, is it goes back to the offensive side of the ball with Alshon Jeffrey. He's He's out for 7 weeks. You could have put him on the PUP list and had an extra roster spot.
Well, I feel they kept on thinking he was going to, because originally the reports and their expectations were that he was only going to be out like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks max was the original call there.
Yeah, but now he has a foot injury, which adds to it. So now I'll say we don't know when the hell this dude's ever coming back.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring it up real quick. But, getting back with Schwartz and talking about the love for players, Michael Kendricks just signed with the Seahawks practice squad. He was with the Eagles, and he wasn't a Schwartz guy, quote unquote. So, I understand he had his legal issues and everything that happened with that, but
if he was cleared to play, he's better than what we had.
Exactly.
And why are we at least looking at if it's not like he signed to their active roster, he signed to their practice squad, so he was looking for any opportunity. Yeah. It doesn't make sense that we didn't at least make an effort there that we know of. I mean, they could have reached out and he could have said, "No, I don't want to play with Jim Schwartz."
Yeah.
I'll say one of our followers, I would say, is bringing up about our corners being soft coverage. The problem is most of these guys can't play man-to-man. There's a reason why they're on soft coverage, I would say, because Schwartz, I would say, knows – besides Darius Slay, no one else should be playing man-to-man in this, I would say, with our secondary, with our corners. Most of these guys are zone cornerbacks. And the fact, I would say, they're playing a little bit soft coverage, I agree. The whole sticks mentality that we keep on getting burned on, but I would say we just don't have the personnel in that secondary. With Devontae Maddox out, Mills has shown he can't play safety or corner, and the rest of these guys, they're going to get outperformed. I was saying Nicole Roby-Coleman was supposed to be the guy in the slot for us to shut down these guys.
Playing outside.
And I was saying, playing outside, and I would say he's been struggling. I would say I
just want to see a cornerback even just be told. I know they're not the right personnel for it. Just tell them to go play some press coverage. Go jam at the line. Put your hands in a wide receiver's face. You just don't see it anymore.
Once again, it's we bring up crap. Howie, I would say my daughter's birthday balloon got stuck in the fan. But I would say with Howie, I would say look at the free agents that we signed this offseason. Really, none of them have been panned out. Will Parks, I would say, was hurt, and I would say he barely got on the field last week when he was out there. Nicole Roby-Coleman is supposed to be our slot guy, and he's underperformed. And the big guy up front, I would say Hargrave, I would say he's been hurt, and even last week, I would say with him playing, he hasn't been much of a factor. We're expecting a lot of interior pressure from him and Fletcher Cox in the middle of that line, and both of them have been struggling.
We've been told that he could play end too. In 3 of the 6 games this year, he hasn't registered a stat.
Yeah.
Not a stat. His name is not appear on the stat line, and he was dressed 3 times this year that he did not. And we're paying him how much money? And I was all for the signing. I loved the signing. I thought he was a great pickup. But you cannot have a guy that you're paying that kind of money not make 1 tackle, 1 quarterback pressure, 1 quarterback hit. I don't care what he does. He needs to be in the stat box at the end of the game. That's insane to think of.
And Chip's right. I would say the only way with your back seven, I would say it's that old mentality that the New York Giants years ago showed the win Super Bowls was with your front four. But the problem is most of our front four, they're not getting pressure. We expected, like we bring up, we expected big games from Malik Jackson, Hargrave, and Fletcher Cox in the interior line. Brandon Graham right now is your leading sack leader with 5 sacks this season for a guy that's 30 in his mid-30s. I would say you need a lot more projection. Granted, Josh Sweat, I would say, has performed pretty well this season. I would say he's one of those guys that I know Johnny had him as a one of those big surprises this season, but I'll say he's a guy that I feel needs a little bit more, a lot more snaps. I would say to get the production and show a little bit more, because I would say you need something more from this defensive front to get to the quarterback. And I understand last week they were playing Lamar Jackson. They were more worried about spying him than trying to get pressure, because if you lose containment with Lamar Jackson from what we saw last week, he's going to break off for big gains like that 37-yard touchdown run, and broke off for another 30-something run as well when they lost containment. So we'll see this week against Daniel Jones if this defensive line can get back in sync and get into the quarterback.
And the defensive line has been playing well. Malik Jackson, not having him is going to hurt a little bit because he could do a couple of different things. But the secondary, has had their issues. And I was looking, scrolling through, I saw an old 2002 defensive back photo. And in the photo was Bobby Taylor, Troy Vincent, Al Harris, Sheldon Brown, Lito Shepherd. And it's just like Brian Dawkins and Blaine Bishop and Michael Lewis. And just looking at that, thinking to myself, wow, back, that's a hell of a secondary. And then you look at the past, what, 6-7 years and
Well, that
what
was
you,
also a different time in the NFL. That's the I was like, we didn't see the
yeah,
passing attack that we do now these days. So having a good secondary is very good, is very key in a lot of defensive success and getting a pass rush. So I would say, yeah, they had great defenses in the past and great secondaries, but I would say you didn't see the passing attack until Peyton went off that one year for 49 touchdowns. That you started seeing a transition with a lot more of the passing offenses.
but it was just like all the names, they're
Yeah.
all good players. So it was just
Blaine
interesting,
Bishop, he was garbage.
but
So, like,
yeah.
Geary was out of position on the 30-yard touchdown run by Lamar Jackson. Obvious, right?
Yeah.
There was another play.
You know,
Did you see
I
it?
don't even want to talk about that. What I want to talk about is the fact that Geary is still getting the playing time, which I know he was dropped, to what, 97% or 94% snap count?
93.
That was a big improvement dropping him because he was 100% every other game. But you saw Davian Taylor, who was getting no time at all, bite on a run. But he had the speed and agility to catch the guy before it got out of hand. Yeah. That alone should have earned Davian Taylor some more playing time. But, of course, we're going to see Nathan Geary out there, every single play instead of Davian Taylor because of Schwartz and his loyalty to his players. And that's the frustrating thing. You could see Davian Taylor has the desire, the heart, and the skill set to make up for his, inexperience. Yet he's not getting the playing time.
The other play, it wasn't a Lamar play. It was a different play. It was on the outside, and Geary had the angle. And he just looked like he gave up. And then if you saw Josh Sweat put his hands up, what are you doing? And I want to see Davian Taylor. I want to see Sean Bradley, but it's just, to me, what you've said. Let these young guys. I understand what your record is, 1-4-1. You're still in the division race. I understand that, but if you're going to hinder
but you don't know if these young guys can play. We think they can play, and we expect them that they can play. But I feel until the Eagles are completely out of it, they're not going to give these guys starting positions or a lot of playing time because I would say they don't feel that they developed quickly enough to go out there and earn that position.
Coaching staff not getting these guys ready to play.
Yeah.
It's or their evaluation because it seems like some of these young guys can play. They're just obviously Mailata can play, but they weren't going to go with him this year
because they can play.
So their evaluation on where these guys stand at this point is just as bad as their developing of them. They're just not evaluating the guys well enough.
Nate Gary, Giants MVP. I like that.
Good talk to me. I'll take the over on Evan Ingram. Ingram's got, I think, the over-under on FanDuel Sportsbook on the player props is, I think it's 39.5 yards or 40.5 yards receiving. I'll take the over on that all day long if I wanted to.
Especially if they have a bunch of receivers that are out.
Yeah.
That's, these young guys, I understand the ones that haven't been playing, but the ones who have been, like you said, with Mailata and even Herbig and Fulgham, and to let these guys play and keep doing it. Fulgham's had 2 really good games. He had an okay game with the 49ers. He just had that one good catch, but why not let –
It was a touchdown catch, and he's the first Eagles receiver had 3 straight touchdowns in his first 3 games since T.O. in 2004. So I'm not saying it's going to be T.O., but it's a nice little tidbit stat out there. I would say a little positive from our wide receiving core that we haven't had the last couple of years. So
I think this comment's really important here. They're calling the plays that they want to, but not the plays for the talent they have. I think that pretty much sums it all up on offense and defense at this point. And I think it's a great comment there because that's all they're doing. They're not utilizing the talent they have. They're not putting the players in positions to succeed. They're just doing hey, it's always worked in the past, so let's do it this time. And that's not the way you coach a team or lead a team.
Well, yeah, look at that 2-point call at the end of the game. I would say the Ravens were in the same defense. I would say I was reading a bunch of analysis and all that.
For all the plays.
Yeah, I was saying, the Ravens were in that same defense the multiple times that the Eagles ran that RPO play. And each time the Ravens defense sniffed it out and stopped them for a loss or for no gain. You would think that, and once again, Peterson is a head coach. He said in his press conference he didn't know he had a timeout. What kind of head coach or who's the one on the sideline telling him, hey, you have a timeout. Maybe you should call it there. They have the same defense, and you're running a play that hasn't freaking worked. And the fact that he openly admitted saying he ran out of plays at the end of the game, what kind of freaking head coach runs out of plays but by the fourth freaking quarter? You always have some type of freaking plays. Look at Andy Reid's freaking little pamphlet.
I don't think he ran out of plays. I just think he made a blunder of his words there, that he didn't know how to answer the question. So the first thing that popped into his head, he said, because I can't buy that he ran out of plays.
He might have ran out of plays. They didn't have to come back the way they did.
Yeah, I don't buy that he ran out of plays. He just was trying to find an excuse for why he failed there at the end of the game.
But going into the Giants, what are you guys focusing on in terms of the Giants itself? Like a matchup that you're kind of like a key, or a matchup that you guys are kind of looking at.
I mean, I got a lot of them, so I don't know. You guys can go
ahead.
first. I mean, obviously the linebackers on Evan Ingram and Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is their leading rusher right now for the Giants, and I know Devontae Freeman hasn't been there, long, but outside
he's been productive.
Yeah, he's productive and all, but Daniel Jones is their leading rusher. So Nathan Geary again with a linebacker or with a wide receiver or tight end that can run routes, and a quarterback that can run deceptively fast. He's kind of like that Carson Wentz or Andrew Luck, guys you don't think of as runners that can actually run the ball. We're in trouble there. That wasn't even my key to the victory or anything like that, but just something I wanted to throw out there to you guys.
That's okay. The one thing with Daniel Jones, something I heard was it was a pretty neat stat for the Eagles, is he's had at least one turnover in every single game he's played in, except for one game last year against Washington.
Yeah, and I think he has right in this season, he has more interceptions than touchdowns. So I would say he's definitely a quarterback that I would say this could be the game. I would say I know that this defense hasn't caused a turnover in and I think 3 to 7 games or something. It's some outrageous stat. So this could be the game I would say that can give the momentum to our defense. And I would say for a very young quarterback that has shown that he turns the football over, this could be the game the defense needs. There's no Saquon Barkley, possibly no Darius Slayton at wide receiver. We have to worry about Ingram and Freeman. But I would say the one thing I would say that I'm definitely eyeing on, there's no Miles Sanders this week. So we do need a balanced offensive attack. We need production from the running backs. And I know we keep on criticizing Boston Scott, but I would say last season when he was given the opportunity to start, I would say he played pretty well, especially the Giants last year. Last season in the last meeting, he had a career-high 138 yards from scrimmage, 84 receiving, 54 rushing, and career-high 3 rushing touchdowns. So I would say, granted, it's a different year, different teams on both sides of the ball, but I would say Boston Scott, I would say, has shown when he's given the lead back as the starter, I would say that he can be productive, especially against this Giants defense. So I would say we definitely need a balanced attack, because I would say Carson Wentz throwing 40, 50 times, having to drop back behind this offensive line, and our wide receivers have shown that can't get open. I would say they definitely need to make sure, especially the last 2 weeks. I would say against the Steelers, they ran only 11 times with Miles Sanders, and then last week they were bottled up for the most part, besides the big run from Miles Sanders as well. And then when he was out of the game, Jalen Hurts was your leading rusher. So,
couple comments from followers here. I don't know who the linebacker he's talking about here. Do you guys know who wants out?
Yeah, that was Correa, Kamali Correa, who he got traded to Jacksonville.
Oh, did he get traded already? Okay, yeah, I didn't even know that one. And then here's a good one. Who's going to be the third running back this week? Huntley, Holyfield.
I think it's going to be
got picked up. He's not available anymore.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Huntley. I would say just the fact, I would say Peterson, when he was asked about the running back situation, I would say he brought up, I would say, Scott and Clement being veterans here the last couple of years. And he did bring up Huntley, I would say, has been limited. He hasn't had as many touches, but it sort of felt like he might be your third running back, I would say, for this week's game. I would say he just brings you that. He fits your offense a little more. Holyfield's more that change of pace back the ground and pound type of guy, which I feel with Sanders being out, they feel that they need another option. They need another guy they need that speed guy that can get to the outside and break open for a big run. So I think Huntley's going to be the third guy.
I agree with that. I mean, it should be Michael Warren or Holyfield, one of the big bruisers, but they're not even around anymore. So This was an earlier comment. We missed a bunch of comments. It's a key one. There's too many coaches. There is no offensive coordinator. There's no one voice, talking to Doug on the offense, and I think that is an issue there.
And for me, like looking at the Giants and looking at what you can do offensively is hold on to the ball. The Eagles are 31st in turnover differential. They're -7.
And Carson,
the Giants are 23rd at -2. So my thing is, you need to take care of the ball.
Someone's practice squad.
Yeah, he just got signed the other day, but he was out there.
He was.
It's another name that we did not hear a single rumor about him being worked out. You had Michael Kendricks and you had Manti Te'o, guys that haven't played in how long in the NFL, and they weren't brought in for a workout.
Bringing his invisible girlfriend with him.
Yeah, I knew that was going to come.
We made lots of jokes.
But just being able to keep Carson upright, of course, but to the turnover differential, you need to. They need to take the ball away. The defense does, but you have to be able to hold on to the ball. If you can, because anytime they give up a turnover, it must be something. Jim Schwartz says, "All right, we have to give up a touchdown now," because they haven't stopped. Every time they give up a turnover, they wind up letting the other team score.
Well, it's usually a short field. I would say a lot of the times they're giving the ball at their own on the opposing team's 40-yard line. So I would say, granted, they shouldn't give like that one game. They shouldn't give up as many touchdowns as they did. They should have been able to bend, not break, hold them to field goals. But the fact that they gave up points, I would say you can't discredit the defense completely. Just the fact I would say that the offense put the defense in bad position. But some of those I agree with you. Like I would say Carson, that one turnover, I would say in his own or deep in opponent's territory, I would say, and the fact that they gave up a big touchdown. So I agree with you there, but I would say definitely about a game of field position. That's definitely another key to this game that the Eagles have been getting destroyed on.
I got a huge key for this game, and just so you know, Palerdo, AB all the way. I've been talking about AB to the Eagles for 15 weeks now. It's not happening. They're not bringing in a wide receiver. But yeah, just had to remind everybody when AB goes off eventually for 150 yards in a couple of weeks, with Seattle or whoever it is. I said it. AB will be an effective wide receiver. But anyway, I want to see Jalen Hurts 12 to 15 plays this week, and I want to see out of those 12 to 15 plays, at least half of them, him in the backfield split in shotgun with Carson Wentz. I don't want one out at wide receiver or the other one out at wide receiver. They only did it once this past week against the Ravens. But if you remember the Dan Orlovsky video from before the season started, the trickery that you can run with Hurts and Wentz, both in shotgun, both with their hands up. You don't know who's getting the ball. You can run multiple RPOs. Hell, you can throw the Ward Horde back there too. You can have all three guys that can throw the ball and run the ball back there at the same time. It's a thing that's not being utilized enough. And I would love to see 12 to 15 plays with Hurts out there and at least 5 or 6 or 7 of those with him in the same backfield as Carson Wentz.
I agree with you because with no Miles Sanders and no Zach Ertz, no Goddard, no Rager, all these weapons that aren't there, I think you need to be able to have them kind of be a little bit focused on. But one thing I want to see is I want to see them, Carson, target Travis Fulgham. I want to see them get full because it seems like there's a chemistry there. There's a connection between the two. And
but you don't want to force it. You don't want to, like we keep on bringing up with Deshaun. You want to make sure you're not forcing these throws just to get these guys involved. I'll say you want from your quarterback, you want him to go through his progression. You want to make sure that he's going to the right read and hitting the wide open receiver. Which I'll say I understand what you're trying to say because Fulgham, he didn't get involved until the second half of the game, and look what happened. They almost came.
He wasn't even targeted till the 2-minute warning of the first half.
Yeah,
that was when he got his first target. But again, as long as you're not forcing it, it's okay. There's a difference between forcing it and and the flow of the game and all that stuff and yet you don't want to force it because that's where interceptions happen. That's where wide receivers lose their confidence, especially young ones as well. Yeah,
and looking at because you touched on it with Darius Slayton talking about the Giants wide receiver position. They're super banged up. If Slayton doesn't play, they may get Sterling Shepard back, but they have Golden Tate. They have Austin
Tate doesn't have any catches this year, pretty much. He's like an unaffected wide receiver at this point.
Well, Tommy, the one comment you had before, who's one of the All About the Birds writers, who's a Giants fan, Tommy said they don't use Ingram like they should. They use them all on short routes. So if they're not going to use him to his strength, it'll be beneficial to the Eagles if that's the case. But
Well, I think a lot of that is too. They're worried about. I would say they don't trust Daniel Jones's arm strength or his accuracy, especially down the middle of the field, especially with your tight end. That I would say a lot of these wide receivers aren't getting open, so he needs that dump off. He needs that guy that just throw it to get a couple yards here and there, or try to pick up a first down if none of these guys are getting open. So, granted, Slayton's been productive, but with him not there now, so it's going to be interesting to see. I would say who's going to be Daniel Jones' go-to guy, which is probably going to be Ingram.
So I want to do one thing off topic. Not off topic, but it's about the game. Is who's one player that's going to basically surprise, almost like your MVP? If you have to choose one player from this game that you're going to say he's going to be either a difference maker, MVP, a player that's going to step up that no one thinks about. If we go around and say who each of ours is off the top of our heads. Jalen Hurts.
I want to see more Jalen Hurts, and I think you'll see more of him. And he's finally getting a smaller bit of confidence in the few plays he's using. If they put him out there 12 to 15 plays, you're going to see something. I just to answer it a little bit more detailed, in a FanDuel or DraftKings MVP game yesterday, I didn't pick him as my MVP, but I actually picked Jalen Hurts as one of my 6 players on a single game DraftKings thing for tomorrow night.
That's not a bad idea, because when Travis Fulgham went off, I picked him as my last guy. I just happened to just pick him because he was cheap. You'd never know. And the one guy I have is a guy that's been playing super well, stepping up, and I think he's going to have a tremendous game, is Brandon Graham. He's just been all over the field, tackles for loss, sacks, pressure, and, going up against a youthful Giants offensive line against Cameron Fleming, I think he's going to have a great game.
I'll say my guy, like I brought up before, I would say with no Miles Sanders, we need that next man up. We need a balanced offensive attack. We need a big run game. And I feel Boston Scott, with his success last year against the Giants, he's going to be that guy. I would say we don't have a lot of faith in Corey Clement. So I was saying his production is, even when he gets the ball, has been minimal at best. So I feel Boston Scott getting a lot of those carries and also like what Phil said with Jalen Hurts, he's going to be getting a lot of touches as well. But I feel Boston Scott's going to be that probably guy. What's that?
Boston Scott with the ESPN fantasy leagues, like the basic fantasy league with PPRs, he's actually projected to get 16.1 or 16.2 points, which is a lot of points for a running back that's not a starter, the fill-in starter and all. Normally they'd be in that 9, 10, 11 range in points projection. Him projected to get 16 point something points says that ESPN thinks he's actually going to be not just a focal point, but effective focal point of the offense, if that's what they're projecting him for this week.
Yeah, I saw that too.
As long as they utilize him correctly, I would say, and give him the right touches, especially in the passing game. None of these crappy running back screens. Make sure, I would say, he's getting productive touches. I would say I feel he's going to surprise a lot of people and shut up a bunch of haters. I'm not saying he's going to be able to do this every week, but against the Giants defense, that I would say they've been playing okay, but they're not a Ravens defense. They're not a Steelers defense. Heck, even the 49ers defense when the Eagles play them. The last, I think, 3 weeks from the stat I saw, the Eagles have played a top 10 defense. So I feel this is the week that the offense gets a little bit clicking and gets that momentum going to a much needed stretch against 3 divisional opponents that's going to make or break their season. Because if they lose this football game on tomorrow night, I'm sorry, you even though there's someone in the hunt, you kiss the season goodbye. I'll say you're 0-2 in the division. You lost to an inferior Giants team. So I'll say it's one of those must-win situations. And I feel that with Carson, and I'll say even though they're limited on offense, Carson's going to step it up. And I would say you're going to see a big game from Boston Scott, like I said.
Yeah, just Paletero. We're going to try to get this name right eventually.
Oh, pal.
Yeah, pal. Hey, it's our own Sal pal right there.
There we go.
Pryor is backing off the COVID list, so he will be starting at right guard most likely.
But we'll make all our picks shortly. Let's get into the Ulecka locks for this week. Last week, I have the numbers. I am prepared this week. So that's
I did it just in case you did it, and you're taking a little bit of lead from us. I would say last week, what was it? You went 2-1, where me and Phil went 1-2. So I would say you have a 10-8 lead, while me and Phil are both 8-8 when it comes to the spread.
And all that matters is my FanDuel Sportsbook account is much bigger than all of yours. So where it counts, where the money is, that's all that matters.
But since I'm in the lead, I'll start and give you my locks for the week. I have San Francisco +2. I know they're playing at New England. I know that New England with Cam and everything, but I just don't think the Patriots are playing that well. I know the San Francisco is getting healthier. Jimmy Garoppolo's off the injured report. I mean, he played last week. They played the Rams. They beat the Rams Sunday night. I think they're going to I think they're going to be able to beat the Patriots. So I got them +2. I have Cincinnati +3. They're playing their rival Cleveland. I think Joe Burrow's been playing. They've been playing well. They had a tough game with Indianapolis. They were in the lead, but they let that slip away, and the Colts wound up beating them. But I think they'll hold, and I think that they'll beat a beat up Cleveland team. And then my last one is, I know I don't always like to do this, but I'm going the Eagles -4.5 against the Giants. I just think at home, back in black, Thursday night. I just think
nothing.
I'm just saying,
yeah. Color don't mean squad. It's just appearance.
The Eagles are 6-0 against the Giants when they wear black, so there's just a little tidbit there. But there's my
5-0 on Thursday nights under Doug Peterson. There's a load of stats.
Then they won like 11 of the last 12 games, 7 straight or something like that. They have the Giants number. There's no denying that. So I would say, but both of these teams are extremely banged up, and both are playing bad. Their records are showing that they've been playing some bad football. So we'll see what happens. Something's going to give. Phil?
I got the Eagles also 4.5-point favorites. They're going to win. We'll get into our final score predictions in a second, but yeah. I got them as well. I think it's a great pick. It's a lock that they win. I've got the Packers 3.5-point favorites over the Texans this week. Packers, Aaron Rodgers is going to be pissed off about losing. The Texans are falling to pieces. So I got the Packers winning that game. And then I got a surprise pick, probably that people don't think, because kind of counteracts that Packers loss last week. Everybody's high on the Bucs, but I got the Raiders +4 over the Bucs this week. The Raiders are not as bad of a team as people think. The Bucs are going to be all high, and they're going to have a letdown this week because they're not as good as people think they are. So I got
– You mean -4?
What?
You mean -4, right?
No, the Raiders are +4.
I have here that the Raiders are favored -4.
Well, let me double check. I got it up on my screen.
On CBS, because that's why
I got Buccaneers -4, Raiders +4 right here. FanDuel Sportsbook.
That's fine. I'll say then CBS messed up then.
Yeah, there's no way the Raiders are a favorite in that game.
I'm like,
there's no way. No, there's no way.
Yeah, I saw Tampa too.
The Raiders are upsetting, but I don't even just think they cover the 4 points. They're winning that game in my best Mike and Missinelli voice outright.
Man, I would say I had to go against you there. I would say because I went with the Buccaneers. I would say I had the Buccaneers originally. I thought they were a +4, so that's why I went with them. But even so, I'll stick with the pick. I'll say Tom Brady had a hell of a game last week. The Bucs destroyed the Green Bay Packers, who which some felt were the class of the NFC through the first half of the season. So I'll say I'm gonna go with the hot Tom Brady and the hot Tampa Bay Bucs over the Raiders on the road. -4. I went with the Chiefs over the Denver Broncos, -9.5. So I picked the Chiefs. I'll say after they've been struggling the last couple of weeks, I feel against a bad Broncos team that they'll cover almost a double-digit cover. And then I was same as you. I went to Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers is pissed off after that debacle and having his first 2-interception game since like 2008 or whatever the hell it was. Yeah. So I'll say I feel the Green Bay Packers are going to destroy a bad Texans team at +3 or -3.5. So those are my three.
The only thing that scares me about that Packers game is the fact that they're not more favored than 3.5.
Yeah, that's why I think
those tricky lines.
I think the fact that they're on the road. So I'll say, of course, usually the home team actually gets a +3. So if this was in Green Bay or 3 points, so if this was in Green Bay, they might be a 6.5 or a 6.5-point favorite.
It's interesting, but yeah. No.
Do you have any? Phil, do you have any fantasy quick?
Well, obviously, just so everybody knows it's watching, our normal fantasy show, the Fantasy and Gambling show is on 8:30 on Thursdays with the Eagles game tomorrow night. We're not doing it tomorrow night. We're going to do it on Friday night, about 9:15. We're still trying to hammer out the exact time. but stay tuned. We will do it. But the games that I'm looking at this week, and that I'll talk with Jason and Josh on the fantasy show on Friday night about. Obviously, the first thing you have to look at their high ownership percentage always, but you got to look at all Buffalo Bills playing the Jets always. And Josh Allen coming off a rough game this past week. You got to look at Buffalo.
I picked him as a defense this week.
I'm sorry?
I picked him up in one of my leagues as a defense.
Yeah. I mean, you can when we talk stacks, I'm actually going to ask Jason's opinion on stacking Josh Allen, Stefon Diggs, and the Bills defense. You never pick a defense as part of a stack, but this is an opportunity where you might do that. I love both Seattle and the Cardinals, who are going up against each other. Both have terrible pass defenses. I know the Cardinals defense looked good against the Cowboys, but the Cowboys are trash offensively right now. So I love that game. I love the Lions, Falcons, and then another weird stack with another potential defense as part of the stack. Really cheap end, which saves you money for high-end running backs and wide receivers. The Washington football team against the Dallas Cowboys. You could stack Antonio Gibson and the Washington defense and get a lot of points there, and it leaves you a lot of money to be used elsewhere. So they're the games I'm looking at. Also, the Chargers-Jaguars. That game is a great game with a lot of points to be scored. But we'll break it all down on Friday night for sure. And we're going to continue to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and the dynamic between Hilaire and now Le'Veon Bell there. We're going to break that down a little bit more this week.
And getting into our game picks for tomorrow night. And like Phil mentioned, we are going to be on after the game for our post-game show.
And we'll be on after the game as always.
So we'll be here. But to give our scores, Jeff, you want to go first?
Sure. I'll say I'm kind of on the same boat as you guys. I know you guys both picked the Eagles as your locks this week. I'll say I'm in the same boat. This is a must-win football game. Eagles at home. Even though it's a short week and they're a banged-up football team, the Giants are just not that good of a football team. Eagles have won 7 consecutive games over the Giants, as well as 11 the previous 12. And the Eagles, like we brought up before, 4-0 on Thursday night. Doug Peterson's the first NFL head coach to win his first 4 career Thursday games on a short week since Jim Caldwell. So I'll say Doug Peterson, even though he's been sucking at play calling the last couple of weeks, he knows how to get his team prepared in a short week. Carson Wentz is playing a lot better, so I feel the Eagles win this one pretty easily. A double-digit win, I'll say 24-14.
I have, same boat. I think it's going to be a double-digit win. I think Eagles will come out. I think the offense will get it going. I think the defense is going to have a great game. I think it's going to be one of those games where it may start off a little bit slow, but I feel like the offense is going to get it going. I have the Eagles winning 31-17.
Yeah, same thing. I don't have to repeat anything other than 27-14 Eagles. We're all in the same boat, all double-digit wins, which means this is going to come down to a Jake Elliott 55-yard field goal to win it is the way this is setting up.
Well, yeah, look at last year, that overtime victory. So I'll say we didn't expect for that to happen last season. So the NFC East matchups are always typically a dogfight, no matter how bad teams are, regardless all those years. It's one of those things, you throw the records out, you throw whoever's good, bad, whatever, and it's usually always going to come down to an end.
When we talk about it as the NFC East dogfights, it's pretty much like that in every division. You look at the AFC West, they all play each other well. The NFC or the AFC North, they all play each other well.
Except the Steelers and Browns last week, which the freaking Steelers blew them the hell out.
Yeah, I did not see. I actually picked – that was one of the games like 2 weeks ago. The Bengals game crushed me against the Ravens. And last week, the Browns game against the Steelers crushed me as well.
And I'll say, Phil, to bring up real quick, I would say our picks left from last week, you gained some steam over the last couple of weeks. You actually are tied with Johnny in the straight-up picks. You guys are both 55-33, while I'm 60-28. So you came back a little bit. You were down like by 5 or 6 games at one point.
There's no money on the line on this stuff, so I just make random picks. I only really think about it when I'm putting money on the line.
Yeah. But couple shout outs. I want to thank Last Out Media. You can follow them at Last Out Media. We're streaming on their site, lastoutmedianetwork.com. Fridays 10 a.m. You'd like to thank at Heat Ratio Sports. We want to thank at Athletes Hub. You can check out allaboutthebirds.com as well. We got a bunch of new content going up on the
Well,
site.
yeah, there's a bunch of great stuff. Tommy Barnett, one of our writers, wrote about some college football prospects. So heading into week 8. So if you're a college football fan, check that out. I'll say a great article from one of our writers, Max, about Jamon Brown being let go. One of our new writers, Josh Wimble, basically breaking down when they expect a lot of these injured players to return. I would say our boy Sam writing about the Fletcher Cox restructuring his contract. So a lot of great content. And I would say Chip, I would say he's been writing a lot of stuff, as well as a lot
of you guys and anybody interested in writing or being a part of the All About the Birds team. Send any 3 of us a message on Twitter. We'll set you up. We'll talk to you. We'll let you know what it takes. It's nothing. We all do this for the fun and for the passion. So if anybody's interested in being part of the All About the Birds team, send us a message. We'd love to let you join the team and help us grow this brand that we're trying to build here.
But yeah, Chip had his breakdown for tomorrow's game, so make sure to check that out. And also, Ken, how much of an impact, win or lose, tomorrow's game, writing about that, how much it impact on the rest of this season as well. So a lot of great content over the last couple of days.
And, we appreciate everyone listening, everyone commenting, everyone, liking. We appreciate all our writers putting content up on the site.
Killing it.
Yeah, it's just,
as I say, we set the trends.
Set the trends. But
here.
The way we always end the shows, set the trends. The way we always end these shows, with a good old go Birds.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.